Let's switch this up. This is the story time of the time I almost cut my mother off, like cut her ass off. Kidding, I would never cut my mom off, but this is the story time of the time she pissed me off more than she's ever pissed me off in my whole life. Like, I really wanted to whoop her ass. For reference, me and my mom and my sister grew up, like, she was a single mom and we were poor, right? We always lived in apartments or townhouses, like we'd nenever owned a house. So at a young age, I realized how poor we were, and it really made me frustrated because I saw like how other kids lived, and it made me sad because I watched how hard my mom worked. I realized it really early on. I'm like 2 seconds away from going back to the green headband because I just can't take my hair sticking in my face. It didn't help that my mom had 2 baby daddies that didn't send child support, so we were just kind of like poor. Anyways, when I was younger, I would always do scratch off tickets. Like, my mom would always buy the lucky 7s and I would just do them and be hoping that I'd win $1 million, and it never really happened. We're very much a scratch off ticket type of family. Like, one time my mom won $10,000 from a scratch off when she was really young, so like we were just a scratch off family, you know? One day my mom decided to buy an actual lottery ticket instead of a scratch off, and so she came home, like did her little thing, put the numbers down, and she calls me downstairs and she's like, I want you to check my scratch off for me. Like, I want you to see, like, the TV will say what the numbers actually are, and I want you to see like if they are right, because I want to see if we won the lottery. This was the year that the lottery was like $10 million, right? Like, an absurd amount of money. An absurd amount of money. I run my little rat ass down the stairs and I'm like, I'm gonna check the lottery numbers. Like, what if we win the lottery? Yay, I love scratch offs. Take the ticket and I'm watching the little balls roll into the thing telling us what numbers are the lottery winners, and one after the other, they're lining up. And they're starting to line up, and I'm like, holy shit, like, we're about to win the fucking lottery. One thing about me, I can't take a prank. I'm not a prank taker. Like, if you do a prank on me, I'm a terrible sport. I will pull a prank on you though, but I'm a terrible sport. I don't know what it is. I'm very emotional. I'm just an awful sport. Like, do not pull a fucking prank on me. And then obviously, all of the numbers line up and I start screaming, running around the house. Holy fuck, we just won the lottery. I'm sobbing my eyes out, so excited. Imagine that. Imagine that. A little girl so excited she just won the lottery so that her mommy doesn't have to work anymore. About 10 minutes after my literal crazy screaming around the house, yay, we can buy a house rampage, my sister and my mother look at me. Oh, I can still feel it. And my sister and my mother look at me and they say, we already knew the lottery numbers. We wrote down the winner so that we could prank you and make you think we won the lottery. I just about lit our house on fire, I swear to God. I actually don't think I've ever been that angry in my life. I literally screamed at them and started sobbing and ran up to my room, and I don't think I talked to them for the rest of the day, and they'd never seen me that angry before. And my sister still talks about it. She actually commented it on my video the other day, which reminded me of it. Yeah, don't ever fucking prank me, because I'm a terrible sport and I will cry and scream and never talk to you again.
Get ready with me while I tell y'all about the girl that was secretly in competition with me for years. So y'all already know about me and Mr. 5'3". Well, this story is gonna be more so about his ex, Leah. The start of the story takes place back in 2019, and I had just joined this new friend group. It was a huge friend group with a bunch of people. Mr. 5'3", Leah, and this guy named Parsley were all a part of this big friend group. At this point, me and Parsley are already really good friends, and one day a few of us are hanging out and I needed a ride home because I didn't have a car. So Mr. 5'3" had actually taken me home. At this point, I had learned that Mr. 5'3" and Leah were a thing. I remember how we started getting into the conversation about it, and we basically started bonding over our relationships, mine with my ex and then his with Leah. We had literally stayed out talking to each other all fucking night, and from then on, we just became best friends. We would hang out every single day, we would text every single day, talk on the phone every single day. We became really good friends until it started to lead to something else. As time goes on, me and Mr. 5'3" start to develop our situationship that was really toxic. You guys kind of already know about that. And then Leah and Parsley, they start to develop their little toxic fucking situationship. Everybody knew about Parsley and Leah, but not everybody knew about me and Mr. 5'3". I only told the people in the friend group that I was close with, and Parsley was one of them, but I had told him, hey, me and Leah are not cool like that, and I don't know how she would react. Let's not tell her about it yet. I'll tell her when I'm ready. I wanted to do it myself. Come to find out, one day she slips up and says some slick shit about me and Mr. 5'3", so I found out that he had already fucking told her. You know, we talked about it and she played it off like it was cool and she was over it and she's happy for me and blah blah blah. So me and her, we started getting really close. As time progresses, her situationship gets really toxic. She starts mistreating Parsley, and then my situationship starts getting really toxic. Mr. 5'3" and I are just like, we're butting heads. It's not working. We're on and off. One day, me and Leah, we go to hang out and we just talk about everything. And we talk about how our situations with Mr. 5'3" are very similar, except I guess he had real feelings for her, but then have feelings for me. And in that moment, she was there for me, I was there for her, and regarding Parsley, and from my understanding, we were cool. And from my understanding, she had completely moved on from Mr. 5'3". Bitch, was I wrong. So as time goes on, Leah and Parsley kind of basically go their separate ways. And it made it pretty clear that Leah at this point kind of just used Parsley as a rebound and to make Mr. 5'3" jealous. And me and Mr. 5'3" had just gotten back together after a huge fight that we had. And I want to make it very clear that this whole time, Mr. 5'3" and Leah were not on speaking terms. They wouldn't even look at each other anytime we would have little hangouts. Nothing, like nothing at all. But all of a sudden, one day, a lot of us are hanging out. That includes me, Leah, Parsley, Mr. 5'3". And all of a sudden, Mr. 5'3" and Leah, they disappear. But me being the investigator that I am, I find them, I see them chilling all alone, somewhere else, talking. And listen, I ain't no insecure ass bitch, okay? We're on the same friend group. Like, I don't mind them talking to each other, hashing out whatever the fuck that they had together. The only issue was, I knew that Mr. 5'3" was not over this bitch because he literally had told me that he was not over this bitch. And that was one of the many, many, many reasons that me and him had problems in the first place. So seeing them really close together, talking it out, it made me feel some type of way. Bitch, obviously, I asked him about it. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And you know what? This is getting kind of long. Go to part 2. You ready with me while I tell you about the girl who was secretly in competition with me for years? Part 2. I confront Mr. 5'3" about why the fuck he was that close to Leah and talking to Leah when they weren't on speaking terms in the first place. And he basically just tells me, like, you know, like, they have to see each other every fucking day when we hang out, and like, they just talked it out and that's that, and they're just cool. They're not friends, nothing like that. And I'm like, okay. Like, at this point, I'm no stranger to his fucking gaslighting and his manipulation, so like, you would think at this point I kind of would know that he was lying to me, but I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe him because at this point I was so in love with this man. Y'all have no idea. Actually, me and Leah end up talking about it too, and she just tells me the same shit. Like, she just doesn't want it to be awkward anymore in the friend group, and like, blah 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 blah. She just needed closure and blah 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 blah. They're cool, they're not friends, nothing like that. And I'm like, okay, because I'm just an understanding, sweet fucking friend. As time goes on, I'm starting to notice Mr. 5'3" is kind of like distancing himself from me. Like, we're still hanging out, we're still best friends, but we're not as intimate as we used to be, and he's not giving me an exact reason as to why. And I'm like confused. And then usually every time that we would hang out with our friend group, me and him, he would take me home and we would hang out by ourselves and do whatever we were gonna do. But now at this point, he literally just drops me off and he's always in a rush to leave and go somewhere else. And I already have a story time about this, so if you want to hear about this exact situation, y'all can go look for that story time. But me and Leah live right around the block from each other, and when Mr. 5'3" would take me home, usually he would go that way. Leah lived that way, so now every night when he would leave, especially when he was in a rush, he would go this way, and I'm not fucking stupid. When I confronted him about it, he just like would be like, oh, I went to go see our other friend, blah blah blah. Yeah, like, you're full of shit. But I started to believe him, okay, because he's so good at manipulating and gaslighting me. And at the same time, I have Leah in my ear fucking lying to me too, because keep in mind, me and her are still close at this point. You know what I do? I take it upon myself to go with Parsley to drive by her apartment after Mr. 5'3" had already dropped me off. And sure enough, his car is in the fucking parking lot of Leah's apartment. And that's when I knew, wow, they're back together. Keep in mind, me and Mr. 5'3" are still together. We still get intimate sometimes. I had no idea that they were seeing each other. I knew it in the back of my mind, but he was gaslighting the fuck out of me. They both were. Obviously, I confront Mr. 5'3" and Parsley confronts Leah. And they lie out of their fucking teeth just saying like, oh yeah, you just came over this one time because they wanted to talk and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you a lying ass fucking bitch. My dumb ass, I kind of just let it slide. And at this point, Mr. 5'3" had cut off all intimacy with me completely, besides like a couple kisses goodbye when he would drop me off and go to their fucking apartment. Slowly, me and him just kind of like started getting more distant with each other, until one day, I open Snapchat, I click on Mr. 5'3"'s story, and basically it's a hard launch of his and Leah's relationship, and I lost my fucking mind. Like little pictures and videos of them on their little fucking date to the fucking carnival. And bitch, keep in mind, again, he had just told me like a few days prior that nothing was going on between them, and that like he just needs some space for me and everything will be good again later. But oh bitch, I started spiraling. I blocked him, I blocked her. So now at this point, me and Parsley are just kind of left dumbfounded, like, what the fuck? We were really just played. So me and Parsley kind of like distanced ourselves from the friend group just the tiniest bit. Obviously, we're still cool with everybody else, but like when Leah and Mr. 53 are there, we kind of like, you know, take a step back. We're kind of away from them. We don't want anything to do with them, you know what I mean? But we don't want to make the rest of our friends uncomfortable. So it's a really tough situation for us. But one day, one of our friends was doing a birthday party and Parsley wasn't there, unfortunately. So I was there by myself with a couple people and then Leah and Mr. 53. We get really fucking drunk and me and Leah, we start talking. Now this is when shit starts to get really fucking messy. Go to part 3. Get ready with me while I talk about this girl that was in secret competition with me for years. Part 3. Obviously, in our drunken state, me and this bitch Leah, we talk it out and we're cool now, okay? As we were talking it out, she had proceeded to tell me that her and Mr. and 53 had secretly been seeing each other for a while me and him were still together. And every time that he would get mad at her, he would go running back to me. And that's why we were on and off with like our intimacy and shit. And she knew me and him were together. And I did make it very clear to her that just because me and her are cool does not mean me and Mr. 53 are gonna be cool. I want nothing to do with this motherfucker whatsoever. But she starts telling me that I should make up with him too because he keeps crying to her about how much he misses me. Which, bitch, is that not a fucking red flag to you? Bitch, at this point, I'm like really fucking conflicted because like, obviously this is still really fresh and I'm still like madly in love with this man. But you know what, I'm like, if I can't have him the way that I want him, at least I can still be friends with him. So me and him make up. I had asked him like, hey, can we like, you know, talk about what happened? Because like, first of all, I never got any fucking clarity from this. Like, you did me really fucking dirty. I heard her side, let me hear your side. He's like, yeah, like, you know what, let's go hang out, me and you, and let's go get some food and let's talk about it. And I'm like, okay, like, is she okay with that? And he was like, yeah, she's cool with that. So that happens, we hang out, and then come to find out later that this bitch did not know that we were gonna hang out and he had lied to her about it, and that became a whole mess. So at this point, we're all cool, besides that one little incident, and we're all in our big party girl eras, right? We're constantly having parties every other night. And sometimes Leah would come to these, sometimes she wouldn't. But me and him were together when Leah wasn't there. He would start to kind of act in certain ways that would allude to like him wanting me back, even though I was drunk and I was still in love with him. Like when he would start to take it too far, I would kind of like hold back a little bit. As much as I wanted to do more, I was like, like I'm not doing this, like that's my friend, like y'all are together now, I'm not that messy. One night, me and him were really drunk, obviously, and we were drinking next to each other, and he grabs my phone and he takes a video of us drinking.
I think it was good, fine, right?
Yeah. He recorded that and he told me like, post it. And I was like, I don't know. But the next morning I woke up and it was on my story. Leah had swiped up on it and she started going off on me, telling me like, oh, like that's my boyfriend, why are you so close to him, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, girl, we were chugging beers, it's not that serious. But then also I started feeling bad and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tell her about all the shit that he's been doing behind her back that was sus to me, and like all the other sus things that he would say about our other friends, because he was like such a fucking whore. So I typed out this long ass essay and I spilled the beans to her, because keep in mind, this is my friend. So I'm not like, yeah, I'm being messy, but also at the same time, she deserved to know what the fuck was going on behind her back. After I sent that, he completely cuts all communication with me. Like, we couldn't even talk about it. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? I should have expected that. Me and her are cool, you know what I mean? But eventually, now they hate each other. He hates me, and then she moved states. She had moved states. Me and her just stopped talking, and we're just kind of at the point like clearly that's not gonna mend with each other anymore. She moved states, and me and her just kind of like stopped talking to each other. And then for like a year straight, me and Mr. 53 have no contact until like later on. Later on, me and him get back together. But it started slow, and we started off as friends first, but then it like alluded into something else, and then yeah. After a while, it just like, we both, like I realized like it wasn't the same, and he was still treating me like shit, so I cut it off like completely. And after that, like, we had seen each other maybe once, and it's been like years. But if you think the story is over, it's not. Go to part 4. Ready with me while I talk about this girl who was in secret competition with me for years. Part 4. So now it had been like a year or so after me and 53 had broken off, like officially, fully 100%, and She had no contact with him for years. She had no contact with any of us for years. So one day she gets on Twitter and this bitch is like in a crazy, like really big manic episode. Like you could tell. I would post the screenshots, but I'm not gonna do that out of her privacy because I feel bad. She's basically just talking about how like, oh yeah, like she's gonna move back to Arizona and how she's gonna get her man back even though she already has a man, and how like blah 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 blah, whatever the fuck. And she starts reaching out to a bunch of people in our friend group. She reaches out to my bestie at the time. She tries to reach out to Mr. 53. He never reaches back out to her, as far as I know. She wanted to talk to me. She reached out to Parsley. She had went to my best friend and had said a lot of shit about how she just like, she feels bad and she doesn't want any animosity between anybody when she moves back to Arizona, and how she like still wants to be friends with everybody. Keep in mind, like none of us really talk to each other anymore. Like the friend group had like completely like gone separate ways. But she had basically told my best friend that like with Parsley, she wanted to just like get some clarification, like some clarity with him, even though, bitch, you're the one who fucking did him dirty. And then with me, she had a lot to say about me. She had said that she wanted to talk to me too and get on good terms with me too, even though she felt like I was this crazy bitch who just like wanted to take her man, which like wasn't really the case. Like obviously like I was still in love with him, but I let them do whatever the fuck they were gonna do. She started saying shit about how like the only reason she made up with me in the first place was that because she felt like Mr. 53 wanted a three-way relationship and she wanted to make him happy. And I was like, bitch, what the fuck? It kind of made sense because at some point, even when they were together, me and her, there was like a lot of tension between us, like sexual tension between us. We had made out a few times, which he was okay with, which makes sense now. You know, before she had left, she had talked about some shit like, oh, let's go on a date. And I was kind of like, oh, but nothing ever came about that. She kind of ghosted me, so I was just kind of like, okay. I wasn't really like trying to have a relationship with her. I was just kind of curious as to like what this date was gonna be, like if she was trying to like be with me. Like I was like confused, but I was like, yeah, let's go. And then she started talking shit about me, being like, oh yeah, Paris wanted to be me so bad and I tried to be like her too just to impress this guy. Bitch, we had nothing in common. I did not want to be you. I was being myself. Only things that we had in common were that we're both light skins, we both listened to similar music, we both were into makeup. That's it. And we both like the same dude. That's it. She started calling me all these whores and bitches and shit, and like, how am I the hoe when you're the one who like took my man in the middle of us being together, even though you knew we were together? I don't know. We never talked. I never reached out to the bitch because how the fuck do you want to make amends with me but you have all this crazy shit to say about me years later when I have been nothing but like supportive of you, even all the shit that you've done to me? I never had anything bad to say about you, bitch. Long after this happened, I did reach out to Mr. 53 and we did hang out one time. We just talked. I had like a little mental breakdown and like, yeah, nothing happened. We talked once, so we never talked again, but we left off on good terms. We both got like a little bit of clarity. It was nice to see each other, but that was it. So like in this situation, who really won, bitch? Cause neither of us, but you get my point.
I went on my first date on Friday. Let's talk about it. This isn't the first time I've ever been on a date. This is the first time I've been on a date since I've been single. I do not take nobody serious. The only reason why I took this person serious is because I went to school with him, so I kind of know him. Also, never have like any expectations. I didn't really have like any expectations on how this date would go. So anyways, he was late. Honestly, I didn't really chop that up as like, ew, I'm never doing this again. I'm not talking to you whenever I leave out of here. It wasn't one of those. When he finally did get there, like he did apologize to me that he was so late, and I was like, it's okay because like I'm normally the person that's late. I was giving him only 10 more minutes before I was leaving though. We start talking. The conversation actually was really good. Like I just don't know what I expected the conversation to be. Kind of nervous because like what did we have in common? It was starting to get like pretty late. I think it was like 1:30 now. We were still sitting and talking, and the restaurant was gonna be closing in like a half an hour, so he asked for the check. Okay, so listen, here's where things started to get like, okay, I'm starting to get like a little worried. He gets a check and he's like, hold on real quick. So he leaves. Time passes or whatever. I text him, I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm about to come back in. More time passes. He does not come back in. Did he just skip out on this fucking bill? He ends up calling me. He's like, hey, do you have Apple Pay? And I'm like, yeah, did you want to just Apple Pay me the money for the bill? He was like, yeah, I'm gonna Apple Pay it to you. Sends me the money. So I did get my money. He comes back in, he explains the situation, something about his car being locked. Now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, again, it's like 1:30 now. What do you want to do? Like, I'm like, well, you know, things close at 2 o'clock. There's not many places that we can go. He asked me what I want to do. I'm like, well, you know, like, do you got games? Let me first start by saying I feel comfortable with this person. I would never go on a date with someone and then go back to their crib. No shade, no tea to the people that do that. No shade, no tea. So when I suggested, like, you know, oh, would you like to just go play some game? He's like, oh, I don't have no game. He's like, well, what else would you want to do? I'm like, well, karaoke. I'm to a point where I'm not shy to bust me out of food. He's like, what if like karaoke's not the category? Okay, so I'm starting to see where this is going. He's like, how about we go back to the car and we take some shots and we can talk about what we want to do. We get back to his car and there's like people outside. He gives me the bottle and there's like probably like this much. There's probably like 2.5 shots left in the bottle, right? He's like, basically kill it. We're like driving at this point. He's like, I think that you should give me a massage. And I'm just like, I don't really respond. Like, I kid you not, I literally do not respond. So we're in an area that I am familiar in. Someone I used to know, like, he lives over there. He like says in passing, he's like, oh, I've always wanted to go up there. Like, it was like this dark road or whatever. I'm like, oh, period, we can joyride. We can joyride, like, yes. He hit something on his car, like, on the way up there, and so he, like, stops. He, like, rocks his car back and forth, trying to see if his tire popped or whatever. He backs it up, he parks his car, kid you not, parks his car. And I'm like, I'm thinking I swear to goodness, I asked this question, are you about to get out and check it? He's like, no, I think it's good. Oh, okay, like, what are we doing here? Takes his jacket off. He's like, I'm ready for my massage now. No, like, I let it go. So I chopped it up. Like, we're not going back to my crib and we're not going back to your crib. Night's over. Done. I'm like, you can either drop me off at my cousin's house or you can drop me off at home. I'm calling my cousin. My cousin does not answer because I know she's fucking asleep. I was like, yeah, you should just took me home, seeing as though we don't live that far from each other. He's like, oh, I'm probably gonna go out and hang out with my friends or whatever. I'm like, okay. So he drops me off. He leaves. Like, he doesn't wait for me to get in the car or get in the house. He leaves. I called a Lyft to go home. And while I'm on the phone with him and I'm talking about the experience or whatever, dude is texting me. He's like, are you good? I wish I was making this shit up. He gonna say, are you able to have company? He texted me after that and he said, he was like, I could have took you home. Like, somebody pop out from the bushes right now. Y'all are pranking me right now. I literally didn't text him back until I was literally walking into the door of my house. And I'm like, no, it's cool. Thanks for tonight. I'll talk to you tomorrow. That was my first date. And here's the eye look. And this is the makeup look. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys later. Mwah.